Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, April 16th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Akron game in 137 days. The game against Michigan in 228 days. The transfer portal for college football opened on Monday, and while I didn't have a specific topic for today's show, I figured, well, certainly there will be transfer portal news to talk about on the Tuesday morning show. And as a true professional, of course I was right. Was it about college football, which I was assuming it was? Absolutely not. No news in the transfer portal yet for the Buckeyes in terms of guys coming or going. I'm sure that is still to come. We will have that, I'm sure, on some coming days. But there is some significant transfer portal news for Jake Diebler in the Ohio State men's basketball program. Buckeyes added center Aaron Bradshaw, 7'1" center out of Kentucky, one of the top 5 players in the class of 2023, transferring from Kentucky to Ohio State. And joining Kevin Noonan of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, this seems like it is a very big addition for the Buckeyes in, I guess, more than one way.
Yeah, it sure is, as Ohio State looks to rebuild its team. I mean, obviously, several key players are gone, either via graduation or via their own exit into the transfer portal. So going and getting Bradshaw, a player who was number 2, according to one of the services, top 5 pretty much across the board, 5-star guy, 7'1", 230, let's say. He's not going to come in. He's not bulked up as much as like a Zach Edey per se, but somebody who got off to a little bit of a slow start to their collegiate career, dealt with some injuries, really didn't make their debut until early December. Had some games, put up 17, 15 points, had some games, put up 0 points. Consistency is going to need to be worked on. But this is a different type of piece than what Ohio State has had in a while, with apologies to Ibrahima Diallo. A big man who can get out there and play back to the basket, front of the basket, a couple of different things. It'll be interesting to see how he works into a system that already has Felix Akpara, but no longer has Zed Key as a backup for what exactly does this all mean?
And it feels like he and Akpara could be a pretty dynamic duo. I don't know that you're playing both of those guys at the same time, but losing Zed Key to the transfer portal at the after last season, they were obviously looking to fill another one big man role to complement Akpara. Seems like they have done that pretty effectively here. Bradshaw played 26 games as a freshman for Kentucky, started 10 of them, scored 4.9 points, 3.3 rebounds, 0.7 blocks. Not enormous numbers, but was out there and was a role player for them. I think one piece of this, Kevin, that is a pretty significant piece of his story is he suffered an injury in his the spring of his high school senior season and missed all of the offseason, missed the start of the season, came back kind of late. It feels like there's a little bit of an asterisk on those numbers where, sometimes there's the former top 5 player and he's been in college for 4 years and just it's never come together, and it's like you wonder about the recruiting rankings. There might be a little bit of an asterisk on, well, the performance wasn't enormous as a true freshman, where that injury may have played a little bit of a role there.
Well, I think it absolutely played a role there. And while I'm not saying cross off the numbers from last year and just don't put them into consideration, is he going to be a guy that's going to get you 17 points a game like he did against Penn? I think he went 17 and 11 against Penn in his second game of his collegiate career. Not unless he's going to go play in the Ivy. I don't know. But, I also saw stretches of multiple games where, again, he was only playing a couple of minutes to where he didn't have any points. But when you're playing at Kentucky and the expectations and the recruiting there, and if you have a short leash for certain players, you're just not going to have an opportunity to kind of work through some of this stuff. You come into Ohio State, the expectations are there. Don't get me wrong. I think fans are very hungry, especially with how Ohio State finished the season, ended all too abruptly in the NIT, third-round loss to UGA. People are going to want to see market improvement from this team, and I think that this is a better team with Aaron Bradshaw than certainly without. But there's going to be a lot of work that's going to go into this. He's going to have to work with Dave Dickerson once he gets on campus and everything else. And this is a departure. Ohio State really just has not done things with a big in the Holtman system per se. And this is an exciting time if you're an Ohio State fan, because sometimes you have to have proof of performance. And if Aaron Bradshaw has some success with Ohio State, then your questions are answered. Well, do I go to Ohio State to prove what a big man can do there without having reference of what any big man has done in the Ohio State system? So This one just makes a lot of sense. And when you couple it with Michi Johnson, we're gonna see a very different look team when you don't have Scotty Middleton, when you don't have Roddy Gale, when you don't have some of these names that you've grown accustomed to, even if they'd only been in town for a year or 2 years or whatever. But Bradshaw completely changes the makeup of this team, and it's not because I'm expecting him to be a 14-10 guy, but it's because Ohio State is the last kid on the block to get a VCR, and now now it's all brave new world. Now Ohio State has a big. I've got a gun. Ho ho ho! I mean, where we are right now. So I'm very curious as to what this.
Yeah, it feels like the Jake Diebler VCR era is still new enough. The clock is still flashing 12 o'clock, but he'll get that programming figured out at some point relatively soon. You think they lost Zed Key to the transfer portal. It feels like the addition of Bradshaw is kind of okay. You replace one with the other, so that solves that problem. Zed Key would only have one more year left. Bradshaw only 1 year of eligibility expired, so potentially a longer term addition there. You mentioned the addition of Michi Johnson. That feels like that kind of swaps in neatly for Roddy Gale. So, okay, you can cross that one out. But it still feels like the loss of Middleton feels like that's one spot where Ohio State maybe still has some work to do in the portal. What do you think? Do they need to add a wing to fill that spot? Is there anything else they need to be shopping for in the portal?
They need a wing. Plain and simple, they need a wing. I mean, we don't know necessarily what the count is right now because, I mean, if you don't enter the portal, you don't really have to say anything, but you have time to enter the portal. So, I'm not going to speculate on numbers right now on something that could be dated really quickly, but you have to get a wing. I mean, that is without a doubt because even with Aaron Bradshaw considered a 4, I mean, Felix Akpara is considered a 4 in a lot of ways too. I mean, you've got to get, a skilled wing out there just to give Ohio State another weapon there. But yeah, I think that I would love to see them have. You can never have enough ball handlers. You can never have enough, point guards or combo guards or whatever. I mean, we see the Big Ten continuing to be a bigger and bigger league in terms of how some of the personnel are. I mean, you're not going to upset me if you say, hey, we want to sit there and have another answer up front as well. But wing is, that's a non-starter. You have to get one, if not more, in my opinion.
So that is Ohio State's big transfer addition of a big man on Monday that happened on Monday. The departure of a different big man became official on Monday as well. That is Zed Key, 4-year player at Ohio State, announced he was going into the portal right after the season ended. And now, Kevin, we know where he's going, and he's not going very far.
No, he's not. He's going down to Dayton. Recently taken a visit down there. All indications were that this was just a matter of when. Once he took that visit, I'm sure tires were kicked by a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of stuff that Zed can do. How does he go in the A10, which is not as much of a banger league as the Big Ten is, and is certainly officiated differently. Zed Key, I think he lost some of effectiveness in the conference when he did the right thing for his health and dropped some weight and everything else. And I think there's a little better spacing in the A10 for him. And I think that a lot of Ohio State fans are going to be pulling for him at his next stop. I mean, because this is not a case of him going to a rival or anything along those lines. So I think that generally there are a lot of good feelings there, except for maybe the people who just hate everybody.
On the internet, you say, I've never met such a person in my entire life. So there is Ohio State's big news. Big news coming, big news going for the Ohio State men's basketball team. We are guessing there's going to be some Ohio State transfer portal news on the football front as well in the coming days. When there is, we will be covering it for you all at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. We'll probably have some instant reaction shows whenever that news drops officially for whichever guys do end up entering the portal or coming to Ohio State. Should be a very busy week or two on that front. We'll be covering that all, as well as a bunch of recruiting news as well. Buckeyes had a ton of big-name recruits in over the spring game weekend, landed a couple commitments. More could be on the way. We'll be covering that for you as well at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Make sure you're subscribed there, where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. We've got our whole team of X's and O's gurus all there to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.